Hello, Darklings. I'm back with another top 10 list, and these are my favorite alien movies. Now, I do like other alien films aside from this, but when it comes to the extraterrestrial, these are just some of my favorites, some of which are pretty off kilter, and some which you might not have heard of. So, number 10 spot on here is The Faculty. This is a very 90s movie with a little meta awareness joking, kind of poking fun of the horror genre and the alien invasion genre. Makes a lot of references to Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is a good movie that did not make it onto this list. And they kind of have jokes about the whole thing. And then there's like a giant evil creature that looks like an oversized louse. It's definitely an odd one and a pleasant surprise when I actually watched it because I thought it was going to be quite dumb and it ended up being very entertaining. Next one on here is a little bit more of a cult film. It's not what I'd call good exactly, but I definitely have a weakness for it. Is The Man Who Fell to Earth from 1976, directed by Nicholas Roeg with David Bowie as his like first big major role in a movie. This movie is very off kilter and odd and long. It's like 2.5 hours long. It's not what I'd call like an easy watch, especially because it's a little confusing and it's really difficult to care. But then there are people like me who care about it anyway. But it isn't for everybody. It's ahead of its time in its filmmaking and storytelling style. Definitely something that you'd see more in the 1990s, which is definitely interesting, even if the effects and plot of the film itself are a little bit odd and somewhat incoherent. I like it anyway. And maybe someone who watches this will like it too. Next one on here, and this is a little hard to pin down as being an alien film precisely, is Phantasm. Now, this is a slightly infamous little Canadian horror film from 1979 that was initially just supposed to just do they were supposed to be a drive-in movie, just kind of got friends together to make this weird little film. They're like, all right, what can we put in here? We got flying orbs that have spikes in them. We've got motorcycles and muscle cars. We've got a very creepy man and demonic Ewoks. Let's go with that. It doesn't exactly make sense, but it's a cult classic for a reason and spawned like 6 sequels. And it's hard to pin it as being an alien film because, like, is it alien or alternate dimensions? Don't ask questions. Just watch it and be terrified. Next one on here from John Carpenter is They Live. Now, this is definitely a bit of a commentary on capitalism, and it's a lot. Aliens take over the world, except they're disguised to look like humans, and then they basically just kind of turn humans into their slaves after fashion, and it's a lot. I've mentioned it on another list. It's quite the adventure. Next one up on here is a little bit more on the cult side, but still on the pop culture side, is Tim Burton's Mars Attacks from 1996. And now this movie is very ridiculous, and it's really funny and stupid and great. It's impressive that you're able to make an entire film based off of bubblegum trading cards from the 50s. But apparently it happened, and you managed to get a lot of bigwig actors in there. It's just definitely an adventure. So... Plus, they were going to make up an alien language and they were too lazy and ended up just sticking with Ack. So the aliens only just say Ack. But it's quite the fun movie if you haven't seen it yet. Next one on here, which my friends had to convince me to watch because I'm typically quite apprehensive of films based off of Stephen King because there's so many and you kind of have to be super careful because some are really bad, is Dreamcatcher from 2006. And this movie is long and weird, and I mean, you have the Stephen King classic staple of boyhood friends have bonding moments over something and then return and their life is in shambles. But then there's psychic powers induced in aliens, and it's kind of gross, and it's a lot, and Morgan Freeman's there, and it's quite a bit. But it was a surprisingly good movie and overlooked a lot. Although I kind of blame that on it being packaged with movies that are like half as good, like Ghost Ship. So, whatever. If you haven't seen it, I highly suggest it. It's also similar to the next movie on here, but from James Gunn, which is Slither. Now, this is one of the most peculiar um, zombie possession alien movies. There's a healthy dose of humor thrown in there. It's weird. It's gross. It's great. Nathan Fillion's Gift. Um, this guy, played by Michael Rooker, goes out into a field and gets possessed by an alien that takes over worlds. And it basically turned him into a gigantic, creepy creature. And there was a lady that was exploded into a bunch of evil slugs, and it's a lot. It was another movie that I remember when it came out, and I kind of skipped over it. And when I went back and watched it years later, I'm like, oh, this is great. It's from the guy that directed Romeo and Juliet, and more recently did Guardians of the Galaxy. So he has a certain off-kilter humor, which I appreciate, and I want him to go back to doing darker humor stuff. Next one on here, which is not a horror movie at all, and a childhood favorite, really, which is why it made it on this list, is Coneheads. So I just remember seeing this when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8, and I thought it was really funny. And when I ended up watching it when I was older, I thought it was even funnier. And it's that stupid early 90s humor with Dan Aykroyd, and it's very amusing. And I mean, it's very preposterous. The way that they word things and the way that the two aliens, known as Coneheads, go about doing things is quite amusing. Next one on here, again, a little off kilter, and I really should read the books because I'm a terrible, terrible person since I haven't read them yet, is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This movie is quite thoroughly British. Doug Adams is a weird guy. We miss him. I really do need to read the novels because as far as I know, they're much, much better. Talking to people who have read the books and seen the film, they can say it's like, well, the movie pays homage to it very well, and it's a good adaptation, but it definitely is not anywhere near as good as the books. But it's very funny in a very English sort of way, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And the last one on here, and one of my favorite extraterrestrial films ever, period, I love this movie to death, is Alien. Unsurprisingly, Alien would make the list of aliens. Now, 36 years later, this movie still holds up very, very well. Set design is perfect. The filming is great. The acting's good. The creature effects are out of this world, quite literally. And they hold up really well still. It's a great movie. Ridley Scott, his art direction is always wonderful. At least in the 70s and 80s. It's just awesome. Plus, Sigourney Weaver just kicks all kinds of ass. And the creature in this thing can give anybody nightmares. I remember having a discussion with my dad when he said he saw it when it first came out. He was pretty damn scared, and he was 30. So, one of my favorite all-time things, and I could go on and on and on about why I love this movie. It's so good. The sequel, I'm kind of indifferent to. Like, I acknowledge that it's there and that it's fairly good. I just really don't like that director at all. The third one, Alien 3, from David Fincher, is pretty bad. It has a good cast, but it's really bad. And Alien 4 doesn't make any sense. And the first AVP isn't bad. The second AVP is not worth your time at all. And Prometheus is worth a watch. It has some weird inconsistencies and plot holes, but it's definitely still fun. I didn't mean to go into all the sequels, but I can't help myself. I really like this movie. So if you haven't seen these, you are missing out, and I highly suggest you stop watching my videos and go and see them. And if you have seen them, then I'm very, very proud because they're great. Till next time, Darklings.